So imagine that we want to create like a zoom of this detail, and we want to increase the quality of this detail here. Okay. So one of the things we can do is to work with colors. If we work with colors, usually everything that it's yellow or yellowish, or it's a thermal insulation. Here by default, if we are using materials, if this is a concrete, we have this hatch. So when we have a hatch like this with these particles, this is concrete. Everybody understand that this is concrete. But if we want to assign a color, and sometimes we have to assign colors, we can select the column. We can override graphics in view. And here we have the cut patterns. So the foreground is by material, and material is the texture. So we have this texture for concrete, that's fine. But if we want a color in the background, we have to select solid, and then we can select something gray, concrete, it's gray. So we can do this. And then if we apply, you see that we have the color and the hatch at the same time. It's quite cool. Okay, so we can do this. Now it takes time, but I think it's good if we, because if we have a plan like this, we can understand that we have different layers of different materials, and each material has a different color. So if that's the thermal insulation too, so I have to go to override graphics by element. And in this case, I don't want a material, I just want the foreground. I can make it solid and yellow. But if you want to keep the hatch, and then you want to add a different color, then I have to select this, override graphics in view. And the foreground, I keep the material, the background, I create a solid fill, and then I select another grayish color. Okay, don't go crazy. Usually the darker the color, it means that it's something structural. Okay, so if we have dark gray and light gray, so the light gray, it's the concrete block, the concrete masonry unit. The dark gray can be the structural element, the column. Okay, but don't go crazy with colors. I think this is enough. And then I have to be consistent. And to be consistent, we have to be careful because, for example, in this one, I have override graphics in view by element. And with this solid fill, if we have the same elements, we have to make sure that we have the same color. So when I click here, we have these colors by default. But when I create my own color, and this is what I have done with this concrete block, you see that I have here the red. It's in RGB scale of colors. There, we have the HSL. So there are different scales of colors, or different. The RGB, it's the most common one. That means that we have a portion of red, portion of green, and portion of blue. Okay, so if we mix 3 colors together with different intensities, we can have all the colors in the world, in theory. So if all these, if they all have the same proportion of red, green, and blue, it's gray. Okay, so I'm going to do something dark gray. So you see that it's 56, 56, 56, and 56. Black is 0, 0, 0, and white is 250 or 255, 255 with red, green, and blue. Okay. If we want something light gray, so it can be like, I recommend you use numbers that we can remember. So if this is 200, 200, and 200, it's light gray. Okay. And now if I want to apply the same color, it should be lighter. Okay. Or right graphics in view by element. And So let's say 220. Okay, so this is lighter. So now if the rest of the concrete masonry units, we want the same hatch and the same color, we have to select all of them. Now we have to override graphics in view. And the material, I remember that I deleted the material. So this is the material, the color. When you have material, the color doesn't matter. And then in the background, I will use solid. And then this is going to be 220 and 220 and 220. Okay, because if we have the same material with different colors or in different hatches, doesn't look good. So we have to be consistent with that. So I don't know what hatch is this, so I'm going to use the same one I used here. Override graphic in view. By element, the material is, I selected this diagonal cross. There you go. Okay, so now I have different colors for different materials, but again, I have to be consistent. I can't apply override graphics in view category in walls because it doesn't work for some reason, but I think I can do it for columns. Okay, so if I select the column and I override graphics in view by category, and the background pattern is solid, and I used this gray, default gray that I had here. Okay, then all the columns have the same foreground and background. You see? So now all the columns have the same, except this one, because when I did this, I created something special for that column. So now I have to change it again by element, and the solid field was this one. Okay, so there are things that work if you select the category, you change the color or the texture of all the elements, but when it comes to the building, to the wall parts, you have to go one by one. It's but the good thing is that we can select all the. Now I'm selecting the steel plates. Okay, so for the steel, it's if we go to override graphics in view by category, I don't think we need a material. I'm going a solid field. I'm going to select this diagonal. Okay, so now we have this diagonal pattern in here. That is an air layer, so I don't need anything for the air layer. And for the interior finish, yeah, we can have this hatch. Okay, so if you want to zoom in and look at the detail here, well, it looks nicer because here we can have like different details. If we want to specify, or if we want to give more details, because this is good at that scale, I think it works. Because I see the layers and I see different colors. Okay, so at that scale, I think it works. So we're going to start preparing sheets. So I'm going to create a new one. And this is 30 by 42. Okay, let's do this. 30 by 42. I don't like this Autodesk block, so double click here. And let's get rid of, before getting rid of this, I'm going to select the project name, the sheet name, and the this. Okay, I'm going to put them aside, and I'm going to delete everything else, all this stuff here. And now I load into project and I overwrite the existing version, and I have this, okay, because the name and so all these elements matter, and at some point I will include these elements inside the block, okay. But what I have now, it's this, just a white rectangle with the right measurements. And now imagine that I want to include here this level 27. So for the level 27, I have all these elements. I have the grid lines. I have the reference planes. So I have a lot of stuff that probably I don't need. Okay. So if I want to include level 27 as a finished drawing, what I have to do is to duplicate it. So I duplicate view, and I call it level 27 final, something like that. So then I have to remove from the view everything that I don't want. So I don't want the section lines. So I can hide in view category. I don't want the reference planes. So I can hide in view category. And I don't want, I don't know what this is, but I don't want it. So I hide in view category as well. Oh, so it was the grid lines. Okay. So this is, I do want the grid lines, but I don't want all that stuff. Okay. So I can select all these elements, or even better, I can use the crop view. So I can use the crop area, and then I just adjust the crop area to the part of the building that I want to show. Okay, so that's good, because in my level 17, I have all the stuff. If I want to change the reference planes, or I want to change something in the drawing, that's fine. But this is what I want to show. Okay, and I don't want to show this. Right. No problem. Okay, so this is it. And now I can drag this in my, I can drag the level 27 final, and I have this side. Now I can use the scale. You see that we have the scale here, so we can control the scale because it's too big. So I can make it 1/2, no, let's say 1/4. And I have the plan, that detail here. Then if we select the drawing, be careful with this line. And then if I select the line, I can move it. Okay, so if I want to make this line shorter, I have to select the drawing, and then I can control the size of this line. But if I want to move it, then I have to select the line and move it. Okay, so imagine that I want this, I want the plan, and with the plan, I think the colors can go well. I don't know, they don't bother, because, well, I understand that at that scale, we have different materials, and yeah, I think it's good. But if I want to analyze better what I have here in this corner, then what I need to do is to create a call out. So in this level 27, or in level 27 final, let's do it in the final, I'm going to create view. You see that here we have a call out. So call out, it's a zoom in that I do in a specific part of this wall. So I create the call out, and I'm going to show the detail of this corner. Okay, and now I want to, this is the call out title. So let's put it here. And here we can change those names. Okay, we'll do it later. But what I want to do is to show a detail of that specific corner. Okay. And you see that here, when we create the callout, here we have level 27 final, callout 1. So let's open this. And this is what we have. Yep. So why do I want to do this? Because I want to include more details in this element. And details mean that I want to create other hatches with other colors and other materials. So let's do it. And we can work with the lines. So far, we are going to do this. Okay, so with this option, you have thin lines. So here we have different line weights, but so far I'm going to work with thin lines. Okay. So the thermal insulation, that's thermal insulation, and that's thermal insulation. The problem is that I have to do it again. Okay, so I have already done this, but I have to do it again in the callout. So in level 27, I have colors, but in the callout, I don't have colors. I have those hatches, or some of the hatches are still there, like the column here, and some of the hatches are not. Well, the first thing I have to do is to increase the size of the detail. Okay, because now the level 27, it was 1/4, and the callout has to be a larger scale. So this is 1 inch equals 1 foot. Okay, and now I have to, it's just, I want to test this because I want to drag the final callout detail. And it has to be bigger than this. Is it big enough? I think it can be bigger. So I'm going to go to the callout, and I'm going to change the scale to 1/1/2 equals 1 foot. And now let's see what happens here. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, there should be a difference between the scale of that detail, and then we zoom in, and then we have a callout here. Okay, so that's these two scales, I think that they work well because I can add a lot of detail here. So let's go to the final callout, and what can I do? Okay, so that's good. I have a color and I have this texture with the background. But now for the thermal insulation, this is the thermal insulation. I can add more detail. First, the color should be the same. That's important. So if I add thermal insulation, I should go to override graphics in view, element, the cut pattern, and I'm going to do it solid and yellow. Okay, so this is what I did last time. But how can I improve this? I can improve this by adding texture. So when we are working with thermal insulation, yellow, I mean, if we have a layer that it's yellowish, we understand that it's the thermal insulation. But if we have a hatch that it's something like this, this is the international hatch for thermal insulation. So do we have this hatch in Revit? We do. Where? It's in annotate. And you see that here we have insulation directly. We have thermal insulation. Place bad insulation in a graphic detail view. Okay, so we can do this, and but now we have to understand how that works. So we can align this to center or to near or far side. I never remember, so let's try. So if we type the point here, you see that by default it's center. So this is not what we want. So it has to be to near side. No, it's the other one. It's the far side. Always, it's always the last one, the last option. What the? Far side. Okay, there you go. Okay, so we have this, and we can adjust the size of the hatch. This gap here, well, it's not great. So I'm going to take this dimension. It's 6 inches. Okay. So if I select the hatch, in annotate, when we go to installation, the installation width, you see that here by default we have 5 3/4. If I have a 6-inch thermal insulation, I have to delete it, and here I have to type 6 inches. And now, joder, far side, there you go. And now the same thing here, still there. Okay, so that's better. We're adding more detail. And why are not doing this in the level 27 final? If I did this in level 27, here in the sheet, it will be too much. Okay, so when I print this out, it will look like a black. So there is no point in adding this detail at that scale. But at that scale, it matters. So that's we have to be careful with that. And before doing anything, or without, or before adding a lot of details here at that scale, we have to print it out to see what it looks like. Because if we add a lot of details at that scale, then probably we will have like a black corner, and all the work that we have done, it's not showing. It's even worse. It's worse than leaving just blank the detail. So that's why we have to be careful with the level of detail that we have with the plan that we are showing and the call out. It comes with experience. Okay, so there will be a moment in which, okay, so for call outs, I need that scale, 1/2 equals 1 foot. And for the plans, I need that scale. I don't have that practice yet because I always struggling with those crazy imperial units. But anyway, it's something that when you look at the page that you are going to print out, that looks well, okay, because we see that they are different layers, that's fine. But here we want more, okay? We want to define more about those materials. So that's thermal insulation too. So I have to go to the callout, annotate, insulation, but before doing this, I need to see the width, because I don't remember the width of this. It's 4 inches. So I have to go to annotate, insulation, the width it's 4 inches. I have to change it here. And to center, no, to far side, and there you go. And same thing here. This is it. Okay, what else? We have the thermal insulation, and we have the concrete masonry unit. Here we have a hatch for the concrete masonry unit. In this, here we just have a hatch and the color. We have to print it out. So at that scale, if the hatch is too much, we can remove the hatch. And it's easy. We only have to go to override graphics in view by element. and we just make it invisible, this foreground pattern. Okay, and we just have the color. But I don't know yet. Okay, so I have to print it out. Maybe with this hatch it will work. But here I want to add more detail. And what is more detail? If this is a concrete masonry unit, I can insert an actual concrete masonry unit there. So here in architecture component, place a component. We don't have it. Okay, so we can go to insert, load family, and there's a folder with detail items. So open detail items, and here we have concrete, and we have concrete precast, but I think we have masonry. So in masonry we have concrete masonry units, and here you see what we have. Okay, so this is what we need. We are in the plan, so we need the top view. So in a section we would need something like that. So as you can see, we have different options. So, if we are working with plans, we need a top view. Top. That there's another one here. I don't know. And here we have another top. Glazed facade. Well, here we have a lot of options, and each option has a side, top, and a section. Okay, so each option you see that have a side, a top, and a section. So I'm going to try the first one. Okay, so here we have a section, we have a side, and this is the top. And apparently this is the most simple, because other sections, they have like, or other elements, they have like ground face. So they have a finish here. So if we want to make it visible, so sometimes the concrete masonry unit can be the finish of the wall in industrial buildings. So we can have like a face with a finish. But if it's in the middle of the wall, we just can select the first one. It doesn't have any finish here. So we're going to select this one, open. Okay, and where is it now? It is in, I told you, in architecture component, place a component. And no, where is it? Oh, sorry, it's not in architecture. It's in annotate a component, detail component. Okay, and now we have the concrete masonry unit. But you see that we have different options, because concrete masonry units, there are different sizes. I think we were working with this 8 by 8 by 8. No, it's the 8 by 8 by 16. This is it. Okay, if we created the 8-inch concrete masonry unit, then I can use this one, and I can place this detail here. And now I can copy. There. Okay, this is high level stuff. Okay, so it's not just we have a hatch, we have the actual element, the actual detail. But again, we can't do this at this scale, because it will look okay. So at that scale it works, but at that scale the colors are enough. Okay, so if we zoom in, we create the call out, then we can do this kind of details here. And now I need the vertical ones. So it's in annotate component, detail component, the 8 by 8 by 16. If you press the space bar, you can change the orientation. And then here, and oh, here. Okay. Go. There you go. Okay, so everything we do here, it gets better. Okay, so adding details. If we zoom in, I mean, we add information, and I think everything everything looks nicer. But again, we have to do this with callouts. It doesn't make any sense doing this at this level with when we're working with the plan itself. If colors work, okay, that's fine. But then in the final sheet that we are going to print out at different scales, this is 1/4, and this is 1/1/2 equals 1 foot. Okay, so that scale is larger, and that's why we can see more details. Are we done with this? Well, we can keep adding information. Again, here we can't add textures, and we can specify the materials that we are using in this wall. Here, at this point, we can add text. So, and we can add text either in the callout or in the final sheet. Well, there are different opinions about this. Some people add the text in the callout itself, and some people add text in the final sheet. I want to add text in the final page, because if we add different pieces of information with text, it doesn't look well when the font size is different. And adjusting the same font size at this scale and at that scale, it's complicated. So that's why I add the text in the final sheet, to make sure that all the text has the same font type and the same font size. Let me explain. So here in annotate, we have the text here. So we can add text. And here we have different options. We can add text and that's it, or we can add an arrow. I use this 2-segment arrow. So let's do this. So I can click here and here. And I can type here, steel plate. Okay. And now again, I have to print it out. If this font size is too small or too big, when I print this out, I don't know, because in the screen I zoom in and it looks good, but it might be too small or too big. So once, so we have to print it out before the final presentation. If we need to increase the font size, then I have to edit type, and here the text size, this is 332, so I can make it bigger. It would be 2 divided by 22. It's right here. 1/8, going to double. Okay, yeah. So I don't know, probably this is better for this size of paper. But again, I have to print it out, and when I find out the right size, then all the texts should be the same size. And now I can copy this. Okay, I can copy this text copy. And I'm a little paranoid with this. If we have different materials and we're going to add text, it's very elegant that all these auxiliary lines and this is the, well, that's the thermal insulation. Thermal insulation. And if there is another element here, and that is the concrete measurement unit. This is important to me, that all these texts are lined up and the lines are parallel. Okay, so if suddenly I start doing this, whatever, whatever, don't do that. Okay, it looks like unprofessional. So make sure that everything, when you can, obviously, if we need materials here, we have two different orientations, but that looks much nicer. Okay, so and that will be the thermal insulation. Okay, and if we need to make the call out a little bigger, we can, so that that fits in that square. So the same thing here. Okay, so if we need to add more text in this, we can go to annotate text, the same two segments, and now here we have this. And now copy, move it down, and you can extend the arrow. Okay, so again, this is the thermal insulation. And this is the concrete masonry unit. And okay, so this is what I mean. This doesn't look professional. If I have lines that are different, if the text is invading the drawings, come on, it's a sin. So how can we do this? You see that here we have different justification. So what's the justification? I think it's this one. Yep. So with this align right, okay, so that looks better. So it's important that the lines are parallel and the text is lined up. Okay, so if we have this, that looks much better than. So we have to be careful and we have to spend time doing this because we can spoil a lot of work just by not being careful with this. Okay? And but the detail works as any other thing. Okay, so if we go with the callout, and we can override graphics in view by category. And here, what do we have? This is the concrete block. So I'm not sure how it works. Let's say that the cut pattern, if I want to create a solid fill and to make it gray, will it work? No, because we have to select the element itself. I think we have selected it. I'm going to do it again. Okay, it's not this, because probably this is not a cut pattern. This is a surface pattern. So I'm going to do it again. Nope. So there's a way to change this. Oh, this is it. No. So there must be a way to change the maybe to change the if I don't want a hatch, but I just want no, it doesn't work. Probably we have to select this. Okay, there you go. So we double click, and here we can change the specification. Okay, that's too much. So let's print what we have, but there's a way to create our own details. Probably we will end up doing this in this course, but it's too much for today. We are not going to, but we can create our own detail, or we can modify the details that we have there. Okay, we double click on the element, then we can we have the family, and then we can change different things of this family. But let's keep it this way because I think it's enough. So when we have this sheet and we want to add different text in other parts of the drawing, I would copy this text here, and then we can place it somewhere if we want to add text in other drawings. And that's the good thing, because now we have the same text size, the same text size, the same font size, and the same font type. So it looks more professional. We can add, I told you, we can go to the callout and we can add the text here. We can go to annotate, we can add text, and we can do this. And here we can type whatever. So what does it look like here? It looks like the same size and the same font and all that stuff. But what will happen in level 27 if I want to add text? Let's find out. It works. Okay, so I wanted to make it bad, but it's okay. So I wanted to have to create different text sizes in the sheet, because at different scales, sometimes when you add text, the scale of the size of the text is not the same. But today it doesn't work. Anyway, it's important that all the fonts that we have in the same detail, they are the same font and the same size. We can add it either in the callout or in the final sheet. I usually add it in the final sheet, and I make sure that all these fonts or all these texts have the same size. But if it works other way, that's fine. But I would do it here. Okay, so I want you to try this. I want to make sure that you know how to do this callout. Okay, so we are going to create this sheet. The scale doesn't matter; those scales work well. Okay, so this one it's a 1/4, and this one it's a 1/2 equals 1 foot. So, and I want you to add this element, the concrete masonry unit, this hatch for the thermal insulation. By the way, you remember that I increased this, so I have to go to the callout, and just by dragging it, I make it okay. It's quite easy. With this, it's not that easy. I have to copy another one. There's a way to create, for example, concrete masonry units or bricks, and we can do the same thing here. We can fill the area, but again, it's not for today. I'll show you how to do it in another lesson. But this is enough for today. Well, it's not enough because I wanted to look at the section. Okay, so in the section, we have to solve this. Okay, I'm going to copy this wall. Here, remove constraints. There you go. And yeah. Okay, I had to fix this because there was a gap, and now I have to move it. Don't know why. Oh. Okay, this is it. So now here we have a wonderful thermal breach, and this can happen. Okay, so I'm going to try to fix this by adding thermal insulation to this the profile here. So I'm going to add thermal insulation to this roof. And that's something that we can do. We can create a pyramid that includes the thermal insulation, too difficult, or we can work just in the section. Okay, what I'm going to do now, it's not a 3D, it's just a 2D element. So we won't have this in our 3D view. Okay, so in the 3D view, we won't see that because basically we are using the 3D view to see the outdoors. We are not using the indoors. Okay, But in the section, somehow I have to fix it, because in the section I would use the parts. You see that by default, in this case, I can select the wall, but I can't select the parts. The parts are hidden in the section. So I have to move it and hide in view. And now I can select the parts, you see. So if I select this thermal insulation and I move it upwards, okay, so now I have thermal insulation here, and at least I have solved this issue. So I don't have the thermal bridge here in this beam that I have here, because I have covered that with thermal insulation. And now I can override graphics in view by category, and I can use the same option, solid and yellow. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work probably because I have to hide the walls. Okay, you see, I painted the wall. I don't want it, so I'm going to hide the category of walls in the section. So what did I do? Okay, I filter walls, hide in view, element. Okay, so now I don't have the wall, I only have the parts. So I want to override graphics of this element. Okay, now it works. Now I have to move it up to this point, and I don't see it here. Interesting. This is a thermal insulation too. And that was the concrete masonry unit. And at that scale, I'm going to just use the same cut pattern, the same material I used for the other one. And the background, I want to use the 220 color. There you go. And if this is the concrete, this is a section, then I have to override graphics and the cut pattern, no, the foreground, the background, sorry. It has to be the same gray that I used for the columns. Okay, so when we are adding this, you see that it takes time, and well, but once we're engaged in this, we have to move on, because we can't, if we are displaying this, we can't have these colors in the plan. So when we are using colors, we need the same colors in the plan, in the section, and then in the callouts. So this is it. I have to figure out how to place this here. Well, if for some reason it doesn't work, we can always, because we are working in 2D now, I told you, this is not a 3D element. We are working in a 2D element. So if we are going to do this, I'm going to move it down like this. And in annotate, I can always create a region, either a field or a masking region. I'm going to create a field region, and I'm going to create this rectangle. Okay, and now I can overwrite graphics in view only in the region. So I'm going to select here solid and yellow. Okay, if for some reason it doesn't work with the part, I can use this annotate either masking region or field region, and then I can select that rectangle. But that rectangle exists only in this section. It doesn't exist in the 3D view. So what do I want to do now? Well, this element is made of concrete. Okay. I don't know why, because the section is this one. Okay, so I think the section should be like here. Okay, now I see the pyramid and the skylight. This pyramid is made of concrete. So I want to select override graphics in view. And in the cut pattern, I'm going to add material, and we can add concrete here in the foreground, but in the background, with the same criteria, I want a solid that is gray. There you go. Okay, so if this is concrete and this is concrete, we need the same hatch and we need the same color. And now I want to add thermal insulation inside. Okay, so probably Louis will turn over in his grave if I do this, but anyway, because he wanted the exposed concrete. And now we're going to add thermal insulation, and then we can have a finish that it's something, it can be a gypsum wall, but that can be the same finish or the same texture that the exposed concrete. Let's do it. And how can I do it? With another region. Okay, so I'm going to use the region here, and I'm going to draw lines. So if I start here, I'm going to cover this with let's say a 4-inch thermal insulation. So this has to be 4 inches. I go to offset, type 4. Well, let's keep 6. Yeah. And now I trim this, and here I need 6 inches. Line. Here and there. Okay, so you see that I have created like a 6-inch thermal insulation layer around it. And then I do this, and now I have to override graphics, and that will be yellow. Okay, so now at least I have an element that it's concrete outside, and we have thermal insulation inside, and we don't interrupt the thermal insulation. Well, we do interrupt thermal insulation because we have a window, but well, we need windows. But interrupting the thermal insulation in a solid wall, we don't do it. So we solve that issue with the thermal bridge. But this is the thermal insulation, and we need a finish. So I'm going to create another region, and I can do this. And what is this? It's a 1 inch. Okay, so now I'm going to create an offset, 1 inch. Here and here, and I have to close the region, and I have to chamfer or to trim this. Okay, so if I do this now, I have another material, the same material that I had in these parts, okay, is the same material that I have here. So again, now I have to be consistent. If I, no, not this one. If I select these two elements, now the cut pattern we can make it gray. It works here, it doesn't work there, because this is a part and this is solid, a region. So this is 2D and the other thing is 3D. So I have to do it again. Override graphics in view by element, the surface, solid and gray. Okay. So this is a better detail because here in the wall, I have the concrete masonry unit, thermal insulation outdoors, thermal insulation indoors, and this can be the plywood, or I don't remember, I think it was plywood or wood, the finish, the interior finish. Here in this pyramid, I have the concrete element, which is the beam. This is the concrete pyramid that didn't have any thermal insulation. So I have to cover this with thermal insulation, and then I need the same finish here. Well, I'm not very happy with this corner, so I think I can do better. But well, at least now, and I'm not very happy with this detail either, because like I'm hiding what you call it, the skylight. Okay. So probably now that I look at this, I'm going to edit boundary. So if I edit this boundary, I'm going to stop this here. And now I do this. Good. And now I have to edit this boundary too. So I want to move it. There you go. And probably if I do this, okay, much better. Okay, but now we are zooming in and we are solving details. So it's not just changing the wall materials. We are trying to figure out what this looks like. Okay, so we are yes, we are going into a lot of details that well, probably you haven't done this yet. Okay, but there's a point in which we need to solve these issues, and there's something else. Look at this. This is it doesn't work. Okay, so we have placed that pyramid here, and this is the concrete. So here we have something that will be terrible for water. So if we want to fix this, we can do it. And in this pyramid, in this British art, Yale roof detail, if we look at the okay, that detail is great, but the resolution is not good. Okay, so here we have this. Right. There you go. Okay, here we have another option. It's not bad. Well, I have solved it in a different way. Okay, so here we have this pyramid, and they have applied the thermal insulation outdoors. Now that I look at this, it makes sense. Okay, but either way, look at all the complexity of this detail of how we can attach the skylight to this. Here we have the concrete structure, and here we have the thermal insulation. Okay, so that's another detail, but that's important. Okay, so we have to prevent this. Here we have this element. This is a metallic element. This we call this a flashing, so that the water goes out. And if water goes here, we have to move the water down and up. And we have explained that in other lessons, not here, but the theory, it's always the same. Okay, so we need to cover this, and this is like a steel plate because concrete is not good to be exposed to water. So we have to cover this with something made of steel or metal. It can be aluminum, it can be zinc, or it can be galvanized steel. It depends, but we need to cover this with that. And at the end, we need this flashing. And then we have this weird shape that I don't know why is it. Okay, so we're going to make up the detail here, but somehow we have to prevent this from happening. Okay, so in this case, instead of adding the thermal insulation indoors, they added the thermal insulation outdoors. Yeah, it could be. Okay, maybe next time we will modify that detail. But what I want to do now is to cover this with a metallic layer. So I'm going to create another region. It can be field or masking, let's say field region. And I want to trace this here. And here I'm going to move like this. Okay, so that's the shape that I'm doing. The goal is to move the water out. And this has to be something very thin. So I can apply an offset. 1 inch is too much. It can be 1/8. And now the offset is, well, if it's 1/8, let's say 1/4. And now I have to close the gaps here, this one, and this one. Okay, so now I have created, I have covered the concrete with this metallic element. And the important thing is that this is continuous, so the water goes out. We can even do something better if I edit the boundary and I move it this way. and then this way, I apply an offset of 1/4 and then trim. That's even better, because if we have this horizontal, the water can stay here. If we have a slope, the water always goes down, and that's important. We can't let the water go vertically to the facade. We have to move it out, and we have to prevent the water from going back here. So we interrupt this here, and the water goes down again. And this, usually we have to fill those gaps. So we fill those gaps with foam. So I can create another region. Here. No, sorry. I created the first region. There you go. And now the second one. And now I can change the color of these regions. Okay, so there's a different version. Well, this looks much better. Okay, so next time we'll try to do this one, because yeah, now I think applying the thermal insulation outdoors would be a better option. But anyway, the idea is that we don't have to interrupt the thermal insulation. It can be indoors or outdoors. But we don't interrupt thermal insulation, and then we don't expose concrete to the rain. So we have this metallic thing here. Okay, so now you know what it takes to design a complete building. It's not just designing the walls, the shape, and take a wood render, and that's it. No, if we want this to be built, we have to zoom in until we create these details. Okay, so it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we have to put a lot of thought into it. Okay, so this is not acceptable. We have to design a detail. So the more unique the building, the more details we have to design. And it's completely acceptable to copy details. Okay, so if I find this detail and it works, let's copy it. So I started doing this before finding this detail. So next time I will copy it. And that's another way to do it. Okay, so we can add text or we can add numbers here, and then we can have like a legend. But when we're looking at details, this is what we need. We can either specify all the material that we have here, or when we have a lot of material, I think working with numbers and having a legend there, it's a better solution. And now I can, because that's the section, I can duplicate the view. So this is section 1, final. And I can go to the sheet I was working with. And then I have to arrange a layout. So if I have the plan and the detail of the plan here, I didn't include the text. And now I can drag the section the section is too small, so I'm going to change the scale to 1/4 maybe. Okay, now it fits here. But now in this section final, I have to remove the things that I don't want. If I just want to show one of the pyramids, this is enough. And then if I don't want, probably I don't want levels. I don't want the reference plane. And yeah, I think, and I don't want the grid lines. Hmm? Okay. And then the next thing would be to add a call out of this section. So I can work with view, call out, and I think I can move this. So I have created a section 1 call out. So if I go to the sheet here, I drag the call out. I change the scale because the scale was 1/1/2. But this is too much. Let's say 1. Okay, that works better. But then if this scale is not enough, because I have a lot of stuff here, I can go to the call out itself. And I can create another level of call outs just to show this. And this is section 1 call out, 1 call out. So in this one, I can add this at a different scale, at 3=1, much 1/1/2. Probably if this was 2, would be even better. No, not 12, 2. Three. 3 is too big. So this is it. Okay. We're not going to continue, but look at this. We have the section, and here we see the whole building, and we have this level of detail. Then we have a call out. Then here we need to include the colors. We need to include the hatch for the thermal insulation. And then if this is too small to specify all the materials that I have this in that specific corner, I can create another call out just for that corner. Look at this. What happens here? I don't have any information. So everything that I have done in the section, it's not in the call out. Why? Why? All this stuff, where is it? It's not there because it's not a 3D object. It's a 2D object. And the 2D object, it's only visible in the drawing that I'm working with. So if I have a call out here, I have to do it again. Okay, so this is useless. Okay, so everything I did here, it's not worth it because I want to show this in the call out. So that's another lesson that you have to learn. Don't work on the same section. First, we need to understand what we want to do, and then we have to apply different levels of detail to different drawings. Because if I'm working with a 2D, I use this annotate detail regions, whatever. Those regions only show up in the drawing I'm working. So if I zoom in and I create a call out, then it doesn't work. I have to do it again. So okay, so but this shows up in all the sections because this is a 3D object. Okay, so we created all this as a 3D object, and we created the wall parts as a 3D object. But if you work with the regions, with annotate regions, those are 2D objects and only show up in this drawing, not in the callouts or in other sections. So keep that in mind. What do I want? I will open the assignment and I want the this 3D view with all the pyramids and all the walls there. And then I want a plan with the walls and the call out. And I want a section with all the walls, the pyramid, and a call out here. And you have to show me that you know how to work with 2D and 3D elements. All this is 3D. And but this is different. This is a 2D element and only shows up in this section. Okay, so this evening I will post the assignment with a list of the things that you have to include. The first thing is the 3D. Okay, so that's the first point. 3D with all that stuff, with walls, parts, windows, different curtain walls, with all 3D stuff here for the waterproofing, the pyramid with the skylight. And then we have to work in that level. Show me that you can work with different colors and different textures. Show me that you can do a call out, and in this call out, you can add this for the thermal insulation and this for the concrete masonry units. And then with the section, show me that we have the section from the basement up to the roof, and at least one call out. Don't do this in the section, do all that stuff with the regions in the call out, not here. Okay, so in this call out, I want to see that you have the thermal insulation there. And one call out is enough. Okay, so you don't have to do the second one. So I need a plan and a call out of this corner, and I need a section and the call out of this part of the roof. But in this call out, you have to include the thermal insulation here. Okay, I will write it down.